Hello folks, welcome to Scratch the Surface. I'm EJ Scott. Today my guests are Brian and Bradford Manning. They are known as the Two Blind Brothers. Before I get into what we talked about, I'd like to do some plugs. If you could subscribe to my podcast, Scratch the Surface, on iTunes, and please leave a rating and a review. That would be awesome. People are telling me that's very important to do and get your listeners to do that. So please, go do that. I think that's enough begging for that. And as far as my plugs go, follow me on Twitter at EJ Scott and at EJ Podcast, my website, ejscott.com. I'm on public pages on Facebook, and I have an Instagram, EJScott1106. There's a documentary on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon, all digital copies of a documentary I'm in called Running Blind, where I ran 12 marathons in 12 months in 2012, blindfolded. Because why would a person do that? Well, I did it because I'm going blind. I have an eye disease called choroideremia. It runs in my family. My grandfather was blind, and my brother has it as well, and my two nephews also have it. And I did that to raise money and awareness. And you can go check it out for only $2 or $3. You can rent it or buy it, and that would be very helpful if you could go check that out. But that kind of brings us to who my guests are today, Brian and Bradford. I talked to them. This is from April 17th, 2018. I know it's a little late in posting it. But actually, today is Bradford's birthday. I just looked on Facebook, and today is Bradford's birthday, and he is doing a campaign for the Foundation for Fighting Blindness. Him and his brother have a clothing company that is basically for the blind, or at least helps blind people. It has Braille tags, and it's very specific to the feel of the clothing. It's really interesting. They were on the Ellen Degeneres Show. They've only been at this for a few years. They're legally blind with an eye disease called Stargardt, and I apologize. I'm pretty sure I missay it throughout the interview. I know a guy with his last name as Skarsgård, and I think I mix it up here and there. Anyway, but so what they have in terms of eye disease is a little different than what I have. Mine kind of closes outward going in, so I'm at like a tunnel vision now, and they're the opposite. So they lost sight in the middle, but they have some peripheral. I don't have any peripheral. So it's interesting to talk to them about that stuff and how they found out as kids. They have such a great outlook on their situation, and I'm envious of it because I don't have a great outlook on my situation. But we do talk about the start of the clothing company, what it was like to go to the Ellen Degeneres Show, what it was like growing up with Skarsgård, how they were told, having each other. When I talk to them, they have an apartment in New York City that's also their workspace, their company. So when I went there were, 4 or 5 employees there working as well. I found that really interesting that, it's all kind of contained. It's all right there. So I talked to them about life and dating and you name it. I think we talked about it. I had a really great time talking with these guys. I hope you enjoy listening to it. Here's my conversation with Bradford and Brian Manning, the Two Blind Brothers. Cool. This should work pretty good. You guys have pretty good timbres in your voice.
Oh, good. We yell a lot. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Well, could you introduce yourself so they know who to recognize on the voice?
Yeah. Hey there. This is Brian Manning.
And this is Bradford Manning.
You guys are brothers, so you sound a little similar. So maybe one of you could do a voice. Just kidding.
Brad will do a nice southern drawl. I'll be a kid from the Bronx, and between the two of us.
Perfect. And you guys, so we are in your apartment slash work area, I guess. Your company.
Yes, we call it the Mullet Apartments since we do all the business in the front, and the bedrooms are in the back. So
And the parties in the back, yeah. And you guys have mullets to match that. I'm just joking. More jokes.
That's what the podcast is for. Non-visual cues.
How long have you guys been in this space?
Been here right about 2 years.
Yeah.
Coming up here in this summer, so we'll be 2 years in this apartment, which has been great because it's given us the opportunity to both have a great place to live and be able to bring in all of our employees and have people work from here and do meetings. So it makes we get a lot of use.
Yeah, and it's huge, and it's in the city, and it's pretty awesome. People would kill for a place like this.
Yeah.
You know. So you guys are from Virginia originally? Is that right?
Yep. Right outside of Charlottesville in Keswick.
How long have you guys been in the city?
10 years, going on 11 years.
And 3 years for me.
And 3 years for you, okay. How you guys are about 30-ish?
I'm 32.
I'm 27.
Oh, 27, okay.
So you're close. You're
yeah.
between the two of us. You just come median age.
I averaged it out. What brought you guys? Well, I guess what brought you out here first?
Work.
Brad?
I graduated UVA, University of Virginia, and got a banking job that brought me to New York City.
Was that your dream to be in a banking job?
Well, my dream was to come and come to a big city. I had some friends that stayed behind in sort of our small town, but I definitely thought, you could grow a lot more and maybe accomplish a lot more, or at least for me, by sort of taking the plunge and going from fresh air, farms and green trees to just giant buildings and angry bosses. So
And pollution.
Yeah, pollution.
And what brought you out here, Brian?
Yeah, I moved up to Boston after graduating college for work, and then I always just had a lot of fun every time I visited Brad in New York, and I had a lot of friends who lived down here, so I actually, 3 years ago, found a new job that actually was going to take me to New York. So it was very fortuitous because I got out of a job that I liked but didn't love and got into a job that I loved in the city that I was so excited to be in.
What was that job that you...
I worked for a company called S&L Financial. It was a data analytics company, and they would... Great people, it was a really fun job, and then they got acquired by Standard & Poor's. So I went from a small company to a Fortune 500 company in a matter of 2 months, and then it got a little less fun.
Yeah, I could see that. When growing up in Virginia, is it just the two of you, siblings-wise?
We have a sister in between us.
Okay. Age-wise, too, she's about 30-ish.
She's 30, yeah.
She's 30, yeah. So, nailed it again.
Yeah, good job.
And what'd your parents do growing up?
My dad worked... my dad was an entrepreneur. He worked on a baby formula business. That's what he worked on growing up. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She also helped out at a barn and a farm, helping raise horses.
Oh, okay.
Before that, she was a intensive care nurse, which wasn't awesome as a kid because whenever you were trying to get out of school, be like, I don't feel well. She'd be like, you feel fine. Did you have a truck land on you today? And you'd say no, and she'd say, well, then you might want to go to class.
Wow, that was her standard. A truck.
It was always a truck.
Did everybody get along okay growing up? Everybody close family?
Yeah, we had a great family. We were really lucky, to have a good family, and our parents were really great sort of mentors to us growing up as well.
Well, it's clearly your dad's an inspiration to you since you guys are entrepreneurs yourself.
Yeah.
What about your sister? Is her vision okay?
Yeah, so Katie's vision is wonderful. We named our women's line the Sighted Sister after our sister with sight. And Katie, and Katie lives in Virginia now with her almost 1-year-old daughter / our niece, and she's very happy down there right now.
And you guys have Stargardt?
Yes,
Stargardt disease. When did you find out that you had that?
I found out when I was 7, but I had symptoms when I was 5. I failed the kindergarten eye chart, and it sort of started this 1.5-year tour to try to figure out what had happened. And it wasn't easy because it was, these are rare retinal diseases. So they assumed everything else first. They thought, I was making it up, or they thought my mom was influencing me.
Did a truck fall on you?
Yeah, did a truck fall, yeah. And then we... and then the way that it was diagnosed is with Stargardt disease, you lose your center vision. When your eye metabolizes vitamin A and you have Stargardt disease, it leaves behind a byproduct that's toxic to your retina, and so it destroys your center vision over time. And so the way they actually diagnose it is they dye your blood and then look at your eyes through a microscope, and then they can see the scar tissue. So we had that scar tissue. Now they can do gene tests, which we've had done as well. But that's how. So I was diagnosed at 7, and then when Brian had symptoms around age 5, he was diagnosed pretty immediately.
Because you were already, I guess, you were about 2 when he got diagnosed. Right?
Yeah, and then I started becoming symptomatic around the same age of 5 or 6. They were, I started showing signs that I was having trouble seeing, and then once that came into effect, one of the first tests was let's see if he has Stargardt's.
They probably assumed it.
At that point, yeah.
Do you know of any other? I don't know how predictable Stargardt is. Compared to like what I have or something, but do other people in your lineage have this?
It's a genetic condition, so you'd think so, but sort of as far back as we can look, we don't have any family members affected with it. Both of our parents don't have it. They both had the recessive gene, and Brian.
They both have the recessive gene?
Yeah, so basically they each had a copy of the gene, and so each of their prospective kids had a 1 in 4 chance of having the condition, and Brian and I were just unlucky enough to both get it.
Or lucky enough, depending on how you look at it.
That's true.
Do you think you're lucky?
That has changed. The opinion has changed a lot over the years. If you asked me when I was 15 and 16, when everyone was getting their driver's license and I wasn't necessarily allowed to, or when you were getting bullied at middle school, absolutely not. But as I can reflect back now, and we have this amazing company, and there's all of these incredible skills that have come from Stargardt's and having this constant adversity in your life, I can be grateful at the lessons and the outcomes that have come from Stargardt's. Still, it's not being able to see isn't the most awesome thing on the planet, but there is a lot of really good opportunities that come from adversity.
Yeah.
Or making, take lemons and make lemonade out of them, right?
Exactly.
I think it is really fascinating, this question of, what's abundant and what's scarce. If Brian and I had to hunt down a deer to feed ourselves, then we would be very, very, very disappointing, and and not having eyesight would be a huge drawback. But if you kind of frame today's challenge as something else, where life is about facing challenges, and the sooner that you develop a healthy relationship with facing adversity and facing challenges and getting that education is the most valuable thing you can do. If that's your perspective, then maybe getting diagnosed with a disease that doesn't impair you so much, but teaches you about challenge could potentially be a good thing.
Because you guys, so your central vision's affected, but you have peripheral.
Correct.
Yes.
On the opposite. But will you lose your peripheral as well, or is it pretty much it'll just stay as is?
most people with Stargardts keep their peripheral vision, but I'm not sure if it's similar for you, but one of the tough things about these conditions is that they're pretty unpredictable. When we were first diagnosed, they just said, go get a cane and and learn to read Braille because you're going to lose your eyesight. That wasn't the case for us, but we certainly were taking those steps when we were first diagnosed.
Yeah. So you did use a cane for a while, or at least
we went to a vision orientation teacher, and I think our mom quickly was like, "They don't need this yet. They don't need to learn this yet." But we did learn Braille because she thought that's something that we wouldn't be able. That'd be much tougher to pick up.
Yeah.
Later on. So.
So you still read Braille?
Yeah, I would say we can still muscle our way through grade 1 Braille,
Okay.
Grade 2 where you do all the contractions. I think we've forgotten a lot of those, but we use a lot of Braille in our designs now, particularly my brothers.
When you guys got diagnosed as kids, did you understand what that meant?
No, frankly, because you're 7, and your vision takes a little bit of time to deteriorate, so you can't see as well as everybody else, and there's starting to be clues, and so kids start picking on you, and you have to get up to go see the chalkboard, and you're standing in front of a room and nobody else had to do that, or when you're handed your textbook and it's 2 feet tall and everybody else just has a normal book. Right. But all those cues come back to your parents and the people who are kind of educating you at that point in your life, and if they are just saying, yep, it's something that's different about you, but everybody has something that makes them different, this is just your thing, so you are going to absolutely adopt it, and you're just going to have to learn to climb over this hurdle when whatever situation that it presents you, was the mentality our parents took upon us. They would say, you can't see well, but that kid's a little shorter than you, so that's his, that might be his challenge, or that kid talks too much, that might be his challenge, or whatever it may be. Just not being able to see was our thing, and so that's how we were kind of pushed into life, which really we're so grateful even to this day about that, because it taught us a lot about ourselves, and taught us a lot about that visual impairment doesn't actually need to be this end-all be-all crippling disease. You can actually overcome a lot, and you can be more successful in a lot of activities than you would otherwise imagine.
Yeah. Was there a chance that your parents wouldn't tell you? Did they procrastinate telling you guys or anything like that?
It was just always treated as, it was just a very practical, it just always felt like a practical issue that they were dealing with in a practical manner. It was basically like, oh yeah, let's set up that meeting with the teacher, that way they can handle your books. But there was never it was just never treated as an excuse, and the victim mentality was never there. I guess that's the biggest thing. It's like, we would address it, we would work around it, but the idea that totally repel any idea that we were victims because of this. I think that was probably one of the big distinctions for us.
Did your parents feel guilty because this is a genetic thing and that they kind of passed it along to you? Do you know? They
never mentioned that to us. When I asked my mom about it about a year ago, because we hear from families all the time that are affected with these conditions now, I asked her, what was your reaction when we were first diagnosed? And she said she cried a lot. She said she cried for a few weeks. But that one of the things she noticed was that I hadn't changed in reaction to the news. I was a 5-year-old or 7-year-old kid and still doing and acting the same way. And she realized that, she said what she told to me about a year ago was that she didn't want that perception she had of me losing my vision affect what I thought of myself, not letting that physical impairment become a psychological one, So that's what she mentioned to me when I asked her.
Do you think it was better for you guys to know earlier than later?
It's such a tough question, because we've met a broad swath of people who have been diagnosed around the same age as us at 7 and grown up with the disease, as well as others who are diagnosed at 25 or 30 who now have to kind of relearn all of their processes throughout their whole life. And, there's huge pros and cons to both. I think growing up with it makes it a touch easier because you don't know what the world is like outside of that.
Right.
And so you get to kind of every experience you have.
And you're already preparing yourself, right?
From an early age.
Yeah.
But at the same time, being able to go through the first 30 years of your life with, good eyesight, you can have invaluable moments and see whatever you want to during that time. So it's really kind of a toss-up. I'm not 100% on either side.
Because you guys don't use a cane or dogs or anything like that. You guys...
No, and we've met a lot of people with Stargardts, and I think maybe only 1 or 2 that we've met use a cane or dog, and that might be because their condition just happens to be much worse than ours. But it's with your peripheral vision, you keep a lot of mobility. That's your peripheral vision helps you a lot with that. But anything that requires us to recognize a face or read small print or normal print is pretty tough.
Yeah. Did knowing what about Stargardt, did that affect what you wanted to be when you grow up? You know what I mean? Do you go, oh, well, I have to consider that I'm losing my, or I'll be partially sighted and stuff like that?
Took astronaut out of the mix.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That wasn't awesome.
Like football player or something,
Yeah, playing the NFL out of the mix. No, but it's actually really funny. Brad and I have talked about this a lot. Frankly, I don't think I could have been an astronaut even if I had perfect eyesight, and I'm not a freak athlete enough to play any major league sport. So those are both pretty quickly off the table, regardless of how well I could see.
Right.
And after that, a lot of other jobs really were on the table, and it actually took going into the working world to realize that some things we weren't as good at. Brad going into banking was looking at Excel spreadsheets and small numbers on a computer screen every day, which is not a
fun job.
But it's not. A, it's not fun, and B, it's not practical. It's just there's a person who is just significantly better at doing that job than he would be. And that was great for me because I realized maybe don't go into banking. You're not going to be good at it. You're going to hate it, and you're going to have to muscle through, and you're going to be worse than everybody. But, outside of that, it was actually pretty easy. Every job that I looked at, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can use this. And what I found is that chatting and talking and interpersonal skills were one of my strong suits, because when you can't see well, everybody has to be your best friend, even if they're a stranger, because they frankly might just be your best friend. You can't see them.
Right.
And so that's why I really, loved a career in sales, because I thought it was a really easy way to utilize those skills.
And you guys mentioned being picked on in school. I mean, most kids are picked on regardless of anything. Was there a particular, because of your eyesight, was it? Do you think it was especially bad, the bullying?
It feels like maybe in certain circumstances it was, because it was so it was easy for somebody to pick up on. What I basically say now is what you said, which is there's a lot of people that get it really bad. A lot of kids pick on each other. We definitely had some of that, and we had different reactions to it. I think we went through all these stages of it where it makes you, when you're young, it makes you shrink down and try to avoid. It makes you hide. I think there was a time in high school where we would get angry about it. Mm-hmm. Somebody says something we don't like, we'd go after them. Yeah. And then I think that hopefully, and everybody's situation is different, you can kind of see through it and see that a lot of this bullying is really somebody else's weakness or problem. And, you learn to frame your eye condition in a way that, the way you kind of like treat yourself is kind of like the way other people will treat you. You do something, I accidentally walk into like a women's bathroom because I can't see the sign. If I sort of laugh it off and you learn to laugh at yourself, you realize it makes it lighthearted for other people as well.
Right.
So you kind of like learn these little awkward situations. But yeah, definitely, I think we definitely got some of that growing up.
Did you guys? I heard you say you got angry sometimes. Was there depression? Did you guys ever have to go to therapy or any of that stuff?
Maybe we should have at some point. We didn't,
Yeah.
but no,
You still could.
Yeah, we were lucky. I think we went to we had a lot of good guidance. Our parents growing up were, quote, good therapists for us. They taught us a lot of these resilience skills. They built up incredible self-esteem in us. They built up a lot of pride in us, so, we had that working really, really well for us.
Did they give you guys a lot of confidence and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think we have to give a lot of credit to our parents for that because, I've met people who, I don't know their situation, I don't know their parents, but they definitely had a different attitude, and a lot of and a lower self-esteem around the vision impairment, which is totally justifiable. We were just lucky to have parents that steered us in that direction.
Were you guys always close?
Yeah, Brad picked on me a bunch as a kid, but
Get you prepared for life?
Yeah, no more than any big brother. But
did you make fun of his eyesight?
Yeah, that was an easy one. Well, that was one of the tough things. Is like we always that I think helped us as well because we knew we couldn't use it as an excuse even when we were feeling down because we knew we were accountable to ourselves. If I was sitting there and I was like, I can't get an A in this class because I can't see the stuff in the class that well. Like Brian would be able to call BS on that. You know what I mean? He's like, look, you can see well enough to do that.
You're just stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
that sounds a lot more like it. No, and that was our relationship. A lot of it was not only being brothers and not only loving each other that way, but we also had this visual impairment thing, and I never met anybody else visually impaired outside of Brad, and so that was kind of my only other reference point to this. And so you try and hold yourself to a standard, and when it was a bad day, you could call and be like, hey man, I couldn't see the board, this kid picked on me, and I started screaming at him and whatnot, and he's like, oh, I remember when I was I was actually in that class and I flipped the desk and we'd laugh about it. You know what I mean? So it ended up being another avenue to talk, which was great.
Did you look up to your big brother?
I did. Like most little brothers, I looked up to him and then I got bigger than him and I realized he wasn't that tough. And and then a lot of the picking on stopped.
And then the swirlies began.
Yeah, the other way.
Head in the toilet. What was like dating like growing up for you guys?
I feel like we did well. I mean, we both have serious girlfriends now. It's a big question. People have asked us a lot too. Oh, did the vision impairment? Did you feel embarrassed about being visually impaired? I really believe that the vision impairment was such a minor issue compared to other things like self-confidence and self-esteem and
right.
Being able to be, especially you think about high school, college, now they're dating in New York City. I mean, self-confidence and self-esteem trumps a lot of other stuff. You can picture those couples, the guy who is definitely hitting it out of his league, and you look at him and the only thing he has going for him is his confidence, and so I think that we were lucky in that way.
Yeah. How long you been with your current serious girlfriends?
I think Court and I have been dating a little over 2.5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And Roxanne and I have been dating about a year.
About a year. How do you guys date? I met my girlfriend online 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What were you guys? You guys online or in person?
I was actually at a charity event, and at Brad's old apartment, he was hosting an event, and we just started chatting and hit it off, and as they say, the rest is history.
I took a different approach. You know, when you're visually impaired and you cannot recognize faces, it forces you to choose. You either have to get very shy or you have to get very friendly. And, you know, if you go to a bar here in New York and I can't see the person standing next to me, I can't see if they're wearing a ring, I can't see whatever, you know, you just make that choice to be friendly and talkative and say hi and meet lots and lots of people. And that's what I've done, and that's how I met Roxanne. It was at a friend birthday party. Now you will be in a situation with your buddies sometimes when you are single. They'll grab you and they'll be like, you know, not her, not her. You just keep going, you know. But you know, that's kind of how I approached it. Is you know, and then you'd meet lots of people, and then you'd sort of figure out who you liked and who you were attracted to, but you know, online dating is also, everybody does it all the time. It used to be like the thing that very few people did. Now, like, you're weird if you're not doing it, you know?
There's apps.
Yeah.
All these apps.
All over the place.
Did your visual impairment, like, you guys don't have anything to tell people that you're blind? Like, I have my cane.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, because I still have central vision, people get confused. They're like, why do you have a cane if you can look me in the face? You know what I mean? So maybe, like, if you guys don't have your cane, do people, you have to break it to them at some point to say I'm visually impaired?
Yeah, it's a really, it was a really common issue before we started a company called Two Blind Brothers. That kind of hints to people what's going on.
Right.
But it was actually a big kind of realization in my life where I would try and hide it from people, or especially early on meeting them when I was in college, because I didn't want everybody to know that I couldn't see well. But then you'd be out and you would meet the same person. You'd be like, hey, what's going on? I'm Brian. They'd be like, I know, we've met 4 times. And you're like, all right, well, that's uncomfortable. Anyways, what's going on? But then you start saying, oh, I'm sorry, I am legally blind. I have really bad eyesight. I can't recognize people's faces. Everyone is immediately like, oh, okay, no problem. And you're like, hey, next time.
Make them feel bad.
Yeah, no.
Fuck you.
No, but so that was a big moment of realization where if you are very calm, cool, and collected about it, and you just say it in a very offhanded way, people very rarely have they react the same way that the information is presented to them. If you're shy or embarrassed or uncomfortable about it, they start feeling the same. If you are confident, oh yeah, it's just this thing that I have, no problem, people will very often just admit it. But one thing that I have found really interesting, if I ever tell anybody I'm visually impaired, no one ever asks, like, I don't have any way to prove it. Like, I don't, because I don't have a cane, I just can't see well. I don't have like a card or anything, so I've always wondered.
Make a card.
Hey, here's this.
You don't have like
paper.
You don't have like a Two Blind Brothers card. You probably have a business card.
Yeah, I'm sure we could do it that way, but I think it's so funny that no one's ever asked. But I don't think I really have any way to prove it besides being like, no, I can't read the sign, and they're like, sure, you can't read the sign.
Sure, you can. A truck fell on.
You know, and all I'll add to that is that, you know, I think it feels very second nature to us, but it's kind of like a situation that you navigate on a situation by situation basis. So if I'm at the coffee shop and they ask me to pay without telling me the amount, you know, I'll have to say to them, in that circumstance, I'll just say, oh, I have bad eyesight. can you tell me what it is? Or I'll say, oh, I forgot my glasses, because I don't want to get into a 20-minute conversation explaining Stargardts to them.
Right.
And then, but you're correct. You do find yourself when you don't have sort of a signal to let people know that you're visually impaired. You find yourself you find yourself in slightly awkward social situations all the time, where somebody will be looking in our peripheral vision at somebody's face, and they'll think you're looking over their shoulder. They'll be like, right. Oh, are you looking at me? And they'll be like very confused.
He's a terrible listener.
Yeah. Or they'll think you're being rude,
right.
And so, and those are certainly awkward and tough, but I think after dealing with it for 25 years, we've sort of figured out how to navigate each of those situations in a way that works for us. But yeah, it's definitely something that when I was in college, I worked with a guy who was completely blind, and he had a dog with him. And it was really interesting because people would walk into the room when new people, and they would see him, and then they would immediately have all these ideas of how they would make the situation more comfortable for him. They'd introduce themselves by name, and then they'd walk into my office and they wouldn't know. And I thought that was it was an interesting dichotomy I was never aware of before that.
What challenges do you guys find on the street, since you guys don't have canes and dogs and things? Because I have the cane and stuff, people know that I'm visually impaired, so there's lots of strangers that want to constantly help me out by either touching me or just talking to me or something like that.
Just randomly touching
which is largely unnecessary and uncomfortable, but you guys probably don't have that then, right?
Right,
so
right.
Are you able to see the walking signs and stuff like that?
We use we'll either ask people for help when we need it. We'll use a lot of cues. Like it's kind of funny actually, but sometimes I'll look to see if I can see the color. Like if I can see the green or the red at the end of the street, that's obviously great. But we'll use other context. Like I'll actually look to see, okay, are the cars actually stopped, or were they driving and then they stopped? So I know I have a full light to cross. Are other people in front of us or on the other side of the street crossing? Those are some of the things that we can see, and that all sort of helps inform like a decision like that.
Yeah. Have you bumped into other challenges along those lines?
On the street, finding your Uber. We can't find. We'll like open every door and be like, Uber for Brad, and they'll be like, no, why?
Get out of my car. You're like, I'm sorry. I don't want to be here as much as you don't want me. A lot of it. It's actually kind of funny. One of the annoying parts is technology is great, and Google Maps is fantastic at getting you to the cross street. When you got to get to 9th and 14th, it's really easy to get there. But then when you have to find building 314,
right,
it is just a absolute nightmare because you're like, I can't see any of the building numbers, and then you have to go through the gate to try and get close enough to see it, and then you can't find it, or it's through it's translucent, so you can't see it as well. So you're just kind of wandering back and forth, and then eventually you just open a door and you're like, hey, quick question, where is 314? And they're like, it's 3 that way. You're like, fantastic, thanks so much, and walk there. That's one of the big annoyances. But a lot of it comes down to seeing small print. If we're at a restaurant and we're trying to order something, or even at a deli when you're like, I guess I'll just get another turkey sandwich. I don't want to go through this whole song and dance of, what do you guys have? And the guy's like, it's right there. Come on. And you're like,
read the specials.
Yeah. Turkey sandwich. They're like, don't have a turkey sandwich. You're like, chicken cutlet. They're like, don't have it. You're like, whatever you got.
We're vegan.
We're vegan. Cool. Tofu, whatever the other things you have on.
Have in your past relationships, have you noticed, or maybe even your current relationship, do you notice that the blindness is an issue sometimes?
It's really weird, and probably people have different opinions on this. I actually find that the people that I've dated actually really enjoy helping. It's kind of
nurturers.
Yeah. Go figure. There are people out there that really just enjoy doing good things for people.
Yeah.
But Roxanne or Court for Brian, like they'll sign our checks at a restaurant, or total the tip and sign the check, or they know what Roxanne knows what I like on the menu, and she'll just read those items off to me. I think maybe I can imagine there's certain people that would have an issue with it, but we just wouldn't end up dating them,
Yeah, and I know for Court and I, at least, it ends up in a lot of nice little moments or little traditions that you do. When we go to a restaurant, she will just kind of read down the menu to me, which sometimes looks a little funny because I'm just sitting there looking at her as she's just listing off items, not even opening my menu. But
I love her voice.
it's so pleasant to me. It makes me imagine.
I wonder sometimes what the waiter thinks when it's Roxanne reading the menu to me, Court reading the menu to Brian, and the four of us just sitting there at the table.
But in Court, especially in a relationship, we'll, walking around New York, we'll, nudge my arm a little bit if I'm about to kick a fire hydrant or it's so funny because that took, a long time to get there, as I'm sure you know, because when you're visually impaired, you don't always want help. You're like, no, I got it.
Yeah.
I'm a capable human being. And then there's other
Even if I'm not a capable human.
Yeah, I mean, it's middle of the road, right? And then there's the other points where you do kick a fire hydrant and you're like, where were you?
Yeah.
What were you doing?
By the way, that's the worst.
Yeah.
Right? Agreed?
Sucks.
Oh, yeah.
That is the absolute worst when your shins hit that fire hydrant.
Oh, God. I actually watched you do that when we were on the way to
we were on the way. This is a terrible story. We're on the way to a meeting, a big meeting, and we're, everyone's kind of jazzed up. And as we're walking, I didn't see one of those concrete pillars that are next to the fire hydrant. I saw the hydrant, bright red, concrete pillar, same color as the ground. I drill my foot into it. I'm just hobbling down the street because we don't want to be late. I'm lagging about 10 feet behind Court and Brad. And as we get to Warby Parker, Brad goes, hey man, there's something on your shirt. As I kicked the thing and lagged behind, a bird had pooped on it. just to really rub it in. Because if I had been walking at normal pace, no bird poop.
Yeah.
So that was a tough afternoon.
Damn you, Skarsgård.
This isn't fair.
And there's also one other thing, though, that question makes me think of, though, is when I ask for help from Roxanne, I don't feel at all less than, or that I'm burdening her, or that I'm not, or that I'm less capable at all. I mean, I really come from the standpoint that we all need help in a million different ways. We all wouldn't be standing here today without our parents, without that friend that helped us in school, without that teacher, without that whatever. I mean, we are a group of people that just need help from everybody all the time. If you put one of us in the woods alone, maybe the guy Bear Grill or whatever would survive, but the rest of us would be in trouble, Yeah. So I don't view it as, it makes you weaker than to ask for a few little, some assistance on a particular thing. We all help each other in different ways.
Yeah. Do you guys, so you have trouble seeing faces, do you guys watch TV? Or can you see a movie screen?
Yeah, we in our apartment, we have a big projector because that's the easiest thing for us to see. But it is funny, Court and I will be watching a movie and I'll be like, wait, who's that guy? And she's like, the main character? And I'm like, oh, I guess he changed. And because he'd been in one outfit for the whole thing and then he switches to something else and he's in the back of the room and I'm like, shoot, I wonder who's sneaking in now. And she's like, he's been there the whole time.
It's The Rock.
It's The Rock. He's huge. I like watching TV, and you can pick up a lot if you are just listening and paying attention.
I don't watch foreign films with subtitles.
That's
I have never. I haven't figured out a good workaround for that.
Do you do the audio description ever?
I've never done it. Maybe that's one way we could do like a foreign film, but I haven't done. I haven't watched a movie with audio description yet.
Do you guys like your side effects? Like my side effects are like light sensitivity, trouble seeing in dimly lit places, stuff like that. Do you guys have similar?
A little bit of that, I wouldn't say it's terrible, but yeah, in low light situations, especially with like stairs in a low lit restaurant.
Yeah,
so if you're going you go to the bathroom downstairs, you're like, you're like going 2 feet on each step just to because you can miss it.
We actually on I think my second or third date with Court, we went to like this trendy restaurant in New York City where there was a candle on every other step.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a wooden staircase down with like no railings. And I remember, and her and the hostess just fly down this thing, and I'm sitting there thinking, I might die.
Yeah, or set this place on fire.
Yeah, I'm like, I was like, all right, so this date is either gonna end with me a hero or just dead at the bottom of these stairs. And I didn't, and she knew that I couldn't see well, but like didn't know to the extent. So I am like, don't look like the weirdo, like just inching your toe over. I was like, let's just attack this. And I went just bounding down these stairs. When I hit the bottom, I'm in a full sweat. I was just terrified. I said, how are you? I was like, so good. This place, awesome. Bathroom's upstairs. All right, cool. I don't have to pee. I'm all good.
I mean, that's a lot of risk, right? That's one situation that's risky, but we do take risks like that, right? Like we're like, all right, let's hope this works out for the best.
Yeah, this is my option.
Have you had any like really scary, like life-threatening stuff? I mean, there's stairs, but maybe there's like a car or some other thing.
Yeah, we've had a few. Actually, yeah.
Well, in the state of Virginia, you with a special type of glasses, and if you have Stargardts and your vision is not progressed too far, you can actually still drive.
Oh my gosh!
So with a bioptic lens that lets you, and so this is a combination of bioptic lens and Virginia, allowing anybody who can reach a 2040 or 2060 vision acuity with this telescope attached to their lens, it can qualify to drive.
Did you guys drive?
So
for like a couple months.
I drove. Killed somebody.
Yeah, I drove for a little while, and you start to realize that you just don't have the vision. There was quite a few close calls with almost where 5 feet made the difference between everyone being okay and everyone not being so okay. And I ended up on the positive side of those coin flips each time, but after a few of them, you start to realize that you probably need to give up this, running a red light just because you didn't see it, or not seeing the mailman who just kind of crossing the street. So those moments, you kind of gotta.
Those are terrifying.
Yeah, and so you.
Moments. What's the progress on Stargardt?
Stargardt's on the research side, or on? It's really interesting. So there's no like big miracle on the horizon, but there's a lot of like little triumphs. There are 22 clinical trials right now that address retinal eye disease. A small fraction of those are addressing Stargardt's. One of the benefits of Stargardt's is it's so close to adult macular degeneration that a lot of the treatments that work for AMD, which is a huge population of people, also potentially will work for Stargardt's. One example, so here are some of the studies, like the Alkeus is a pill, pharmaceutical that's supposed to slow the progression of the disease. I think they just finished up maybe their phase 2 clinical trial. There's a natural history study where they basically took a few hundred Stargardt's patients and tracked their deterioration, and that's extremely valuable because one of the tough things traditionally about getting a therapy approved at the FDA is you need to show an improvement in vision acuity. And for a lot of these diseases, they're degenerative. So a therapy that could slow or stop the progression of the disease actually had a hard time getting approved because you weren't reading more lines on an eye chart. So like the Foundation Fighting Blindness, for example, like works on things like that, like getting certain endpoints approved so that therapies that address those things can take care of them. There's some stem cell work. University of Iowa is working on creating a retinal stem cell patch that could be translational across retinal disease. There's a number of other things as well, but it's interesting. One of the big wins recently for eye disease was a therapy called Luxturna that is owned by Spark Therapeutics, and that was approved in January. And that's a gene therapy that treats a condition called LCA, Leber's congenital amaurosis, and that causes blindness in about 1,500 children in the U.S. every year. And this is a single-shot gene therapy that, cures it in a lot of circumstances. So there's some very exciting things happening.
Are you guys hopeful for a cure in your lifetime?
I think in our lifetime it's very, very, very realistic. Stem cell and gene therapy are incredible tools. They've been worked on for 30 or 40 years. You're starting to see treatments being adopted for them. I think one of the treatments you're seeing now are basically diseases with one small gene mutation that's almost like a light switch. You put in the new genetic code, it puts in the right gene, and like your body starts making the protein, and you're off to the races. Stargardt's is controlled by what's called the ABCA4 gene, which is a massive gene. And right now, gene therapy can't address these larger genes, but that's an example of something that I could see happening over the course of our lifetime.
Yeah. And would you guys embrace a cure for yourselves?
I would.
Yeah, I would as well.
Yeah. What would you guys like to do most if you were to get that cure?
Read a book.
Yeah.
I love audiobooks. I love listening to books. I love books, but I like just sitting down and just being actually able to flip through one sounds like such a pleasant experience that I've never been able to have. I probably would read one and be like, that took forever. All right, let's get back to 2x speed audiobooks and start banging these out.
Wait, do you listen to audiobooks at 2x speed?
Yeah, if I need to get through them, I up it. So
that's
turn a 5-hour book into a 2.5-hour book becomes a lot more manageable.
That's hilarious. I've thought about doing that, but I'm like, I don't want the distorted voice thing,
Yeah, some are better than others that way. Some are you're listening to for leisure, others you're listening to for information, and so you're just plowing through them.
That's so funny. What about you, Mr. Bradford?
You know what would be so awesome is being able to recognize an acquaintance's face. If I had my vision back, like I'd go out to a bar, like some bar on Friday night, and I would spot somebody across the room that I had like dinner with like 2 years ago, and I'd be like, "Hey, good to see you." I'd love to start to like approach and make friends with more acquaintances that I don't recognize right now because I can't see their face. Or you're passing somebody on the street who's too shy to say hello to you. I would be that person that would like say hi to every single person that was an acquaintance that I met.
Well, that's nice. Is there a chance if you guys have children that you'll pass it along?
Yeah. So if the mother of my children ends up being a carrier of Stargardt's, then yes. If they're not a carrier of Stargardt's, our children will have the recessive trait, but won't actually have the disease.
Okay, and so then maybe they could pass it on
Yes.
to their children, something like that. Because in my family, the females are carriers. And then the males get it. My brother has what I have. My sister has 2 boys. They both have it.
Oh, wow.
My grandfather had it. My mom's a carrier, that type of thing.
Wow.
So, all right. So where did the idea for the clothing company come from?
Brian and I were shopping one day together at Bloomingdale's, and we sort of lost each other in the store. And if you're blind or you're visually impaired, you pay a lot of attention to touch and the way things feel, especially when you can't see like the price or the brand or the colors on the item that well. That's just one piece of information that's easy to determine, how much you like the feel of something. So coincidentally, we walked out with the same exact shirt.
No kidding.
Yeah. And
that's weird.
And even though it was a weird coincidence, we were talking about how incredible it felt, and we couldn't wear the same shirt, so we played rock paper scissors. He had to return it. But it got us thinking about, what about a clothing label that was focused on diligence to touch? And we both had careers, and so we thought this could be a charity project that we could do in our part-time, and we could give those profits to early stage retinal research.
That's so interesting. Were you guys interested before that in fashion at all or anything like that? Clothing?
No, not really. We were, as our dad said, terrible dressers. But it was an idea that we struck upon. We had really good friends who were in the fashion industry. Actually, my girlfriend Court happened to be was a buyer for a major brand for a while, and so she was able to give us some advice. And there was also just some other folks who made it really easy to start kind of producing clothing, or not, made it easier. We still made about 1 million every mistake you possibly could. But the other thing is, Brad and I always have done little projects together. When we were, I think, like 11 and 16, we went to a diner and tried to eat everything on the menu. It's just always little fun, silly things. I think we opened up.
It keeps you from having to read it.
Exactly. One of everything. I think that sounds about right. And she's like, 9 muffins. You're like, I said one of everything. But we, and had a little sand dollar stand when we were younger. And so it was just a fun project to try and get educated in a space we knew nothing about, try and get a little smarter. And frankly, it was supposed to be a few hours at the end of each day as a just extra thing that wasn't our full-time jobs.
Right. Huh. So that Bloomingdale's thing happened when?
What would you say? So we said May, probably
about
6-8 months earlier.
Yeah, so call it like a little less than 3 years ago.
A little less than 3 years ago. Wow, you guys have come a long way in a short amount of time.
Yeah, feels like that, yeah.
So, all right, so you had the Bloomingdale's thing, then you start talking about, hey, what if we did this? Did either one of you go, we don't know anything about this stuff?
Yeah, well, we got, like Brian mentioned, we got in touch with some friends who help do some production consulting and design consulting, and they were nice enough to help us out. And so that's how and then because we were so focused on sense of touch, we started with fabrics. We said, wouldn't that be fun to find the perfect fabric for this clothing label? And so we started sourcing just thousands of swatches from fabric mills and fabric distributors, and we would go to Starbucks on the weekend and just dump them all out and start sorting and playing with them, and that's actually where we started.
Wow. At any point did you say, I don't think we should do this, this isn't going to work, or anything like that?
What's funny is, I feel like I had this different myth about entrepreneurship where it was we're going to leave our jobs and we're going to burn the ships and we're going to invest every penny we've ever made and we're going to fight tooth and nail. That's actually, it's not we always were thinking, this is fun. We're going to spend a little bit of our free time, a little bit of our resources to just play around with this. We can stop anytime we want. But what happened is things kind of just kept moving. And then, when we started getting some of the media attention and reaction to the brand and the story, that's when we're oh, maybe we can invest a little more time in this, until, we've sort of gotten to where we are today. But it was sort of this incremental baby step way where we kind of held on to everything else we were doing while building this on the side.
You mentioned making a lot of mistakes. What were some of the bigger mistakes that you guys made, you think?
Oh, all of them.
We spent too much on our first few samples and patterns,
So when you were using your own money?
Yeah, that was probably the first one that we made. Is we just kept trying to make tweaks and kept trying to change the shirt based on 100 people's feedback, and we just kind of kept making little changes, and we didn't follow what we thought was right from the beginning, which was a tough lesson to learn. It cost us, and we also really baby stepped into our first production run. We were like, oh, we'll just make a couple, where we should have, I guess hindsight, we knew it might be successful, but at that point we didn't. So we really took a long time in getting our first set of shirts out for a true production run.
Yeah, and we've also had just like a lot of growing pains. I mean, when we had the appearance on the Ellen Degeneres Show, we had like 50 shirts in stock, because she bought 300 for the audience members, and that was pretty much all we had.
Yeah.
So then, we get hit the next day, and we're back ordered by like 3 months, and we didn't have any. We had one employee at the time. I had an assistant at my former job who was basically helping almost full time. To help manage the orders and help manage the production and everything like that. So we were completely understaffed. We weren't ready for all the media attention we got. I wish we could go back in time and like create the diverse product selection, the beautiful website, the staff we have now from the very beginning. It would have saved us from a lot of headaches. There's been a lot of nights where we're sending hundreds of emails to people being like, so sorry, hang in there, we'll get you your order, or just staying up all night shipping boxes and or screaming to try to get more inventory. So we've definitely hit a lot of those growing pains along the way as well.
Yeah, no kidding. But I mean, your media stuff is really good because people have pointed me towards you guys for a while, and
cool.
And just been like, hey, look at what these guys are up to, and you have like really good quality videos out there.
Thank you.
Is somebody helping you with that stuff, or?
Yeah, so our first video was produced by a guy named Peter Rossler. He's at Shoot Me Peter. Just give him a little plug. But then we had a part-time film student who helped us just like film a lot of candid stuff of Brian and I, giving updates on the business, talking about the project, talking about the company. Now we've hired a full-time video production person who, on any given day we can produce a great piece of content, so that's been a huge, and for us, that's basically our quote-unquote marketing budget. Is we need to, scaling on social media is how we reach people, so that's been a very valuable piece for us. I mean, truthfully, I probably should have her in here, like, filming part of this podcast, because what you would do is cut it up and put it on, and you'd share that with your audience, and they would hear more about us. And so,
bring her in here.
So maybe we'll do something with her after this. But
great.
So now we have a full-time video production person.
And so I guess through those videos online, somehow Ellen Degeneres caught wind, or did you guys solicit her?
Yeah, we were super fortunate. We had been doing just smaller, more local media, and then we had gone to Now This, which is a Facebook news channel.
Right.
And they had asked us to do a story with them, and so we were so excited, and we got on and we did the story with them, and then probably about a week and a half later, the customer service line rings, and at that time we're probably getting 4 customer service phone calls a week or a day, and the assistant at the time, Janice, covers her mouth and is just like almost in tears, and Brad goes out and says, "What is going on? Is that person yelling at you? Like, what is happening?" And she says, "Okay, I'll set up a call with the brothers," and then hangs up. And Brad's like, hey, everything okay?" And she goes, "That was a producer at the Ellen Degeneres Show. They want to talk to you guys." And so we went on about 2-month interview process. It was longer than any job interview you've ever had. And we probably did 6 or 7 phone calls with different folks. And at the end of it, they actually said that we had been selected to go on the show. And so on January 3rd, we filmed, and January 4th, the episode aired. And it was one of the single coolest days of my life.
Yeah, I bet. And so after that, she gives you a big check for $30,000. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's hanging in our living room.
And then the publicity alone. Then you mentioned being backed up. How bad? Like how many phone calls did you guys get? Like the next day?
Oh my God! So we were on the flight flying home from LA where we filmed it when the show aired, and when we land, the phone just explodes with messages, and you realize the power that this woman and the show has, and how much people admire and respect her because. She really gave us a glowing endorsement on the show, and we spent the next 3 days responding to emails. We got hit with. We were back ordered for about 3 months, and one thing that was interesting is that we hadn't seen with some of our other media hits that we've gotten is you get this waterfall effect where Ellen is so big and she's kind of like a celebrity, like a lot of celebrities love her, that anybody who had any association with our company or with our cause was proud to announce it. So any of the free models that had modeled our clothing, they were all sharing it with their audience. I model with this company; they're amazing. Our college, the University of Virginia, was very proud to announce it, and so it created this kind of network effect that that it was more than just her audience alone. And one of the things that came out of that is. Our college, University of Virginia, published our story, and a senior producer at the NBC Nightly News saw it and said, we need to have these guys on. And so we thought we were about to engage in another 2 to 3 month interview process to get on a big media hit. And it was literally like 2 weeks later from the Ellen show that we were on, in the viewership on primetime news is even bigger than daytime Ellen, and it we thought we were barely above water after Ellen, and then the NBC show we were just sent just massive apology emails to everybody.
But here was the amazing part was we sent every person, hey, we're so sorry, but we can't fill your order for 2 months, 3 months. And out of the hundreds and hundreds of people who we had to send that email to, only 3 people actually responded and said, yeah, I'll take the refund. Everybody else said, no problem, get it to me when you can. And that was nice. Really a special moment. We realized how much kindness there is in the world and how much people really care about causes and how the power of being a cause-driven company versus just a straight for-profit trying to make a buck. Because I know for a fact that if I order something and they're like, hey, it won't be there for 3 weeks, I'm just like, yeah, I didn't love it that much.
Right.
And we were asking people to wait 3 months, which was truly blew us away.
Well, let's focus on those 3 people that canceled. What a bunch of jerks.
Yeah.
So, and you guys, the money goes to the Foundation for Fighting Blindness?
Yeah. So, Brian and I always say with Two Blind Brothers, we can pick the best projects wherever they are, and I feel like that's the right thing for us to do because we feel like stewards of those donations that people are allowing us to give. But from a very practical sense, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has been doing this research for 40 years. They've got a team of researchers, administrators to help sort of, because science is very complicated. It's a little different from some of these one-for-one models where you buy something and they give one to somebody who needs it. The science, you can waste a lot of money if you're not giving to the right projects. So we really leverage the resources at the Foundation Fighting Blindness. They're just an incredible organization, and we have a close relationship on them. We see exactly where they're putting all their dollars, and they've been sort of our main partner in this since we started.
Do you know about how much you've given to them over the last 3 years?
Yeah, we've contributed about $200,000 since starting the project.
Pretty good. Do you see Do you know how much you'll grow in the next year? Like, do you go, oh yeah, in the next year we'll make about this much?
I have no idea.
And we have days where we'll do, and especially from when we're starting out, we'll have months where we'll do more than we did the previous 2 months, and then we'll have a day that's amazing, and then we'll have another day. So it's almost impossible to predict where we're going to end up. Which makes it really tough to do inventory planning because we're like, no, we're all good, and then we're like, okay, we have nothing. All right, let's get it. Let's get a bigger pot this time. Then I'll be like, okay, we're great, and then I'll be like, shoot, it happened again. So that's been a struggle, but it's a fun struggle to have.
How many people do you have working for you now?
Including Brian and I, there's 6. So Brian and I plus 4 others that are full-time.
How'd you find your employees?
All warm leads, all through friends of friends. It's kind of funny. We started this project as 2 brothers, and we had both worked in sort of more bureaucratic companies, where it was sort of like, the last thing you want to do is like hire a best friend under you because you're just going to be like screaming at them. You know what I mean? So our approach here is like just total open collaborative environment. So Courtney Harrell went to UVA with me and was one of my sister's friends. Mary Newp, who works with us, is close with Courtney, and my sister knew her as well.
Court is my girlfriend and works with us as well.
Yeah, I guess actually Brianna was unsolicited. We actually made an offer to somebody that we knew who couldn't take it. So we did find Brianna through a typical sort of recruiting website, and she's been awesome. She's been really great.
How nervous were you guys to go on the Ellen Degeneres Show?
Terrified. Just I couldn't sleep for like a month.
It was, oh God. The worst part is at the end of the last phone call, when they're like, you're on the show, you're coming out January 3rd, we'll email for logistics, but don't, that'll, and Brad goes, great, so like, when are we going to talk to you next? And she's like, well, I'll probably, call you on the morning of the 3rd, make sure everything's working okay, but, I'll just see you guys when you get here. And this is a month prior, and Brad goes, well, we haven't talked about any like the questions she's going to ask. Like, what should we prepare for? And this woman, Courtney, goes, don't worry about it. Just be funny and be yourselves. And we don't want to make any waves. So we say, not a problem. Great. See you the 3rd.
Yeah.
Hang up the phone. And we're sitting there like, be funny in front of 6 million. How are you funny?
Come in with a tight 5.
Yeah, and so we get to the show and our whole family's there, and it's everyone's excited and having fun, and then the show starts to air, and Brandon and I are looking at each other like, all right, no one's talked to us yet. Like, I guess we're just going out there cold, no idea, and then. Probably because you're watching the show be filmed, so you're watching like Jamie Foxx up there, going through his whole thing, Ellen doing her monologue,
and we know we're the last segment.
And so they pull us out into another room, and they go, "Hey, we just want to run like 4 or 5 questions by you guys that she may ask, but frankly, probably won't. But we just want to give you some idea." Okay. And we're sitting there like, "Oh, thanks so much. We got like 12 minutes. Are you sure?" And all her people are so great, and they ask us, they like run through like 4 or 5 questions that they think she might ask, and some answers that they liked when we were on the phone with them. And they bring you downstairs, and they're just like, they do a great job of just kind of always having somebody there chit-chatting with you, so you don't really have time to think.
You don't freeze up,
And so as we're walking out, oh God, we did a little Snapchat, and then so like, all right, get on out there. And I just was so scared. But you get out there, and as soon as something comes out of your mouth, you're like, okay, I still know how to speak. I'm a capable person, I hope. And then and then it was just fun from there.
Oh my God! So you didn't meet her until you were out there.
No, and they said that on purpose. They really want those genuine and sometimes the awkward moment. Yeah. I mean, they want that rawness on the show.
And what happens afterwards?
I blacked out. I don't know.
We walked backstage, and Brad and I don't even think my feet touched the floor for the next hour and a half as I just kind of floated through, like just over the moon, like unable to think or know or do anything. I was so happy.
You know, for us, it was basically like, first of all, we were putting out our story publicly. We were telling people we had bad eyesight in a very public way. We were sort of removing that ability we always had to kind of hide it, you know? Anybody who Google our names is going to see, you know, two blind brothers and see us talking about it on the Ellen Show. You know, we were fairly comfortable, I think, with that. But the other thing, too, is like we felt a big responsibility. You know, there's 10 million people in the U.S. that have these retinal eye diseases, and you know, for this particular show and for Ellen to say, hey, you know, we've chosen you to be the ones to speak about this issue, felt like a lot of pressure. You know, you want to do justice. You want it to be a great segment. You want people to see, you want that mother who just had her son diagnosed with this disease to see it and go, I'm not going to cry for 3 weeks because there's a future for you know, my son. You know, so we felt a lot of that pressure, and we wanted to do a really good job for this community that's always been so supportive of us.
Well, I think you did it. Were you proud of the segment afterwards?
It was great. You know, it was you to watch yourself on national television. You always are going to say, I should have done this better. You know, I could have done. But truthfully, it was very authentic. You know, it was short. You know, it was like 4 minutes is the segment. But our message got out, and we've had a lot of great things come from it. So,
how'd you get the giant check here? Did they mail it to you?
No, we rolled it up and took it with us. I wasn't letting that thing out of my hands for days.
Oh, okay, you can roll it up. That's good.
Yeah, so they handed it to you, and so we rolled it up. I put like a rubber band around it, and I think I might even like tucked it into my pants so we got on the plane. I just didn't want anybody touching it.
And we have an aunt that owns a framing shop in Kalamazoo, Michigan, PJ Frame Up, and she put it in a beautiful frame for us and sent it to us. Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
You guys know, you know the right people. It sounds like for everything that you need to get this.
If we do, it's fantastic. If we don't, you know, we have such a supportive and kind community of friends and supporters that we get to have people always are willing to help. I mean, that's the key.
You know, I think a couple things have helped our project a lot. One, if you're doing something good, like people generally want to help. I mean, there's a lot of people, especially if they can help. It's if you can do something great that somebody really needs help figuring out. It's almost like the same way when Roxanne helps me see the menu. It actually feels good to help when we have somebody who's like, "Hey, I'm running this charity. I'm trying to get it going, or I'm trying to run this project." You know, we love nothing more than to share that advice. You know, because we just feel very fortunate. We feel like, you know, it's created so much magic for us. You know, we want to get that out there and share it. And we've benefited a lot from that. You know, there's been plenty of people who are like, here's our story. Would you mind helping us think about branding, or would you mind modeling for us? I mean, we had former Miss Ghana and former Miss Asia come and do modeling for us, just based on our story and the desire to help. I think anybody out there who's starting a project or is trying to do some social good, it's kind of funny the amount of people. The former CEO of Barney's and J. Crew had lunch with us just to give us his advice. I mean, these are things in my old business, the investment business, to like ask somebody for a favor to quote unquote waste their time. It just didn't happen. But when you're doing social good, people come together more.
What do you guys hope for the future of your company?
You know, every 3 months is different. We're growing fast. We'd love, you know, our goal is to cure blindness. And that's, you know, obviously a big sort of vague goal because there's so many.
That's a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah.
Also.
You know, if we can make a meaningful difference in a significant eye disease through one of our donations, we will consider it a total success. Yeah. We want to continue being, to do as much as we can with the community. We want to, one kind of thing that's popping up for us now is we do want to figure out if we can actually put together some content that shows people the exact blueprint that got us here. Because if somebody else can take their small business charity project and benefit at all from this, what we've learned about, how to use social, how to get media, how to do good storytelling, then that's really cool, so.
Have you guys thought of writing a book or something?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, actually. We have a proposal in our email inbox. We have a great this literary agency called Inkwell, and this great writer who's helping us kind of write a proposal and go to some publishers with it. So we're actually reviewing that now. We know nothing about that world at all. We are kind of we're sort of like, it's like when they wanted us on the Ellen Degeneres Show, we're kind of thinking, are you sure we're really, really not that interesting? But,
Happy to talk to you, but there's a lot
do they think we're like a 5-year-old that can dance or something like that? So we're exploring that, The only reason we would do it is if we think it was either valuable to the visually impaired community or somebody who wants to create a social project. If we feel like we can actually share something of value, then we would do it.
Well, I would say, I'd say you're more interesting than you think. Even just, the talk that we've had right now has been very interesting. But I also think, if you wrote a book talking about not only how you started the business, but your own background and stories and what it's like to deal with this, all. But it would also be a good excuse to go back on the Ellen Degeneres Show or other media and go, we have a book we're selling also.
I like that. Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We'll give you a royalty.
Please. Or at least a free book. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, man. We really appreciate you stopping by. It's great to finally meet you.
Good to meet you too, and good talking with you. And I hope maybe you could show me some clothes out there before I leave.
Yeah,
Show me around. I saw all the wine bottles. So you got, maybe that's next. You guys make your own wine or
Two Wine Brothers wine. That's what that's what the fans are clamoring for.
You can just say Two Wine Brothers.
Boom,
more royalties.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to plug your website or Twitters or anything like that?
Sure. Anybody who wants to see what we're doing can go to Two Blind Brothers, all spelled out, TWO, twoblindbrothers.com. They can find us on social, on Facebook at Two Blind Bros or at Two Blind Brothers. And we share a lot of messages about vision impairment, cause-driven companies. Brian tells jokes on Instagram, and
And can they order worldwide?
Yes, shipping is expensive if you don't live in the U.S. or Canada, but yes.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you guys.
Thank you so much. Pleasure chatting.
Pleasure and scene. There you go, folks. That was my talk with Bradford and Brian Manning. Thank you so much, fellas, for talking with me and taking time out of your work day. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. So one more time for my plugs. Go to @EJ or @EJ Podcast on Twitter. EJScott.com is the website. EJScott1106 on Instagram. Give me a rating and a review, please, on iTunes, and check out Running Blind documentary on iTunes, Amazon, or Google Play for only $2 or $3. You'll be glad you did. And of course, check out Bradford and Brian's clothing line and website and all that good stuff. And happy birthday, Bradford! And I hope you guys are doing well. And go subscribe to my podcast. And we will see you next time. Thanks.